All right, guys, here we're going to talk about It's a Disaster, a 2012 star-studded movie that I got for $1.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
there's a ton of celebrities in this movie.
Are they all famous people?
Well,
I only know like three of the people.
David Cross,
Yeah.
America Ferrera, and
Ugly-
Julia Stiles.
Ugly Betty, right?
Are
Yeah.
like, A-list actors, arguably. And then Erin Hayes. Don't tell me you're not a big fan of hers.
Who?
She's from Final Stab, a movie we've reviewed.
Who?
She was the
What?
girl that cheated in this movie. And she was the girl that wanted to murder her sister and all her friends in Final Stab.
I was gonna say, no, which one's Final Stab? Oh no. Okay, I guess she looked familiar.
Yeah.
But so they all looked familiar, where I thought that they'd all been in stuff.
Everybody,
But,
all the other people, I didn't list their names
Okay.
because I don't recognize their names, but I've recognized the people. The guy who played Buck, he's been in
Yes.
things, but is almost unrecognizable with that facial hair.
Oh, neat. Okay.
Like,
well, even like the nerd guy, I was kind of like whatever. Okay, so
let's start where we start. Have you heard about this movie? before we
real
went
quick,
into it?
going into this, I see the title. It's a disaster. I David Cross is in it. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be like a scary movie thing for disaster movies. It's gonna be like Meet the Spartans and all this other stuff. It'd be cameos from like Charlie Sheen or something like that. I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if my heart can take this. But it's the night before we film our YouTube stuff, so I have to watch this. I have to soldier on. I have to get through this somehow. I started up. It's David Cross and Julia Stiles in a car, like talking, and I'm like, oh no, this is what it's gonna be. We're gonna get out, and it's gonna be like a butt or something. Aliens. What's
gonna be
it?
a
Like.
butt.
Anthony Anderson's gonna be there, like what? It's gonna be this whole fuck, and like heartburn. I'm like oh god, I come back, but David Cross, Julia Stiles, I both like them each, so I was like maybe encouraged or whatever. Had you heard about this?
I had heard nothing about this at all.
Yeah.
And had not seen it, obviously, and had picked up a bunch of movies at the dollar store, which I was like, all right, cool, and I posted this picture to a subreddit I'm in where I got this haul at the dollar store, and somebody was like, oh my god, it's a disaster, I've wanted to see that for so long, and I was like,
Okay.
I have not heard this at all, but I'm now from some random man on the internet. I am enthusiastic about this, and I've seen the cover, so I know there are good people in this.
Yeah, and one more quick tidbit: long credits sequence.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh, always a good sign when we have to pad the fucking runtime with a long static credit sequence.
Long credits.
Oh
so
no!
This was
Right.
directed and written by Todd Berger. Todd Berger also has a cameo in the movie. Todd Berger plays the neighbor who comes over in the hazmat suit.
Oh, neat. Okay, what is Todd Berg? 'Cause that guy looked familiar.
So he, I actually don't remember anything.
Is he an Upright Citizens Brigade guy? He kind of reminded me of one of the guys from the UCB theater.
He has
thing.
a bunch of acting credits, and I didn't actually. I don't either. I did not look at all of his other writing director's credits, or he had none. I can't recall which. Sorry, I am painfully unaware at this moment.
No, that's fine.
But he was in.
It makes sense that
Parks
that
and
guy
Rec,
would be
some...
right. He's probably a comedy dude. It makes sense that that's who that guy was because he sort of shows up and delivers and then leaves, right? So
yes.
It's kind of
just
kind of makes sense.
It's good to make. I think it's something that's nice when they make the cameo because like, oh, I might not make another feature. Let me get my name out there and do some stuff. And one less person to have to trust because you can do it your damn self.
Yeah, and we should say, I guess, segueing from that, this is a relatively small sort of thing. It kind of takes place in this one house.
This is I tried to get the actual budget for the movie. I couldn't find it. Everyone agreed how it's this micro budget movie, and it was
I thought the estimate was $3 million.
I did not see that anywhere. Where did you see that?
I thought just right on IMDb.
I didn't see it on IMDb. I went through the Wikipedia and whatever.
We usually try to look up just so we get a sense, right? Because if someone made something for $50,000, we're like, oh no, that's really small, right? Yeah, it says estimated $3 million.
I wonder if that's accurate.
Yeah, you never know with some of the stuff. If they don't publish it and there's no like shareholder meeting where they have to disclose it, we're all just really guessing. So maybe the guy made a thing.
So
in
this
an
had
interview.
a limited. I did get to see like the box office numbers. It had limited release in a couple of theaters in New York and Los Angeles, and it made $60,000 over the weekend that it was in theaters. And I'm like, that's that's not actually terrible for
nothing. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, for a couple of screenings. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
And again, so it has great people. It has David Cross. David Cross Kung Fu Panda, Arrested Development, Run Ronnie Run.
Of course, Kung Fu Panda. Yeah, that's good. No,
That might, because if you think about it,
these days, yeah.
he's one of the main characters in that. He's done 3, a video game, the TV show, I believe. So like,
yeah.
he might be that might be one of his best known things.
I gotcha.
But Arrested Development, playing Tobias,
definitely.
that's great. Men in Black, he was the other.
showed up
Keep
and
Your Dead, the other guy, in the morgue.
And he did I forget, was it the
Mr. Show?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is he Bob and David? Mr. Show with Bob and David. He's done some other sketch stuff too, like you're talking about. The Run Ronnie Run, I think, came from Mr. Show or some other sketch thing.
I don't know the origin of that one. I just know that was like
one
of the only movies that Nikki Cox had been in, and I remember seeing her. I was like, oh, and that made a fucking.
No, he was involved in multiple sketch things. He did stand up. I always used to love seeing him. He's kind of hit or miss for me though. Some of his stuff gets a little weird.
Very much agreed.
Where he's
very hit or miss.
He's very deep in something, and sometimes that works so much better because I like click with what he's into thing.
Yes.
But sometimes I'm like, I don't know who that author is. I don't know why that's funny. That author would be like it's like very weird, right? He's like pretentious at times.
And then America Ferrera, she is in Sister of the Traveling Pants. She is Ugly Betty.
I never watched Ugly Betty, so I didn't know that until I checked on IMDb after the fact.
I've seen a couple episodes. My friend was on the show, so like I would like tune in to see him on there, and he's like, she is a super bitch. And I was like, okay, cool.
Inside scoop.
And then Julia Stiles, 10 Things I Hate About You, Save the Last Dance. She's great.
Season 5 of Dexter.
Sure. Yes.
I like Julia Stiles.
Yes, no, very much so. I see these on the cover, I'm like, optimistic.
Julia Stiles, one of those actresses where I'm like, my wife, Julia Stiles. Yeah, no, exactly.
So going into it, I was like, I know one random guy on the internet gave it a positive review,
right.
and
it has people in it that are encouraging to you. Yeah.
I'm like, I am down.
Yep.
So then we were watching it.
So we,
you left off that they were in the car, and at that point you were waiting for butts.
When I was
you didn't
waiting
see
for
butts, were you then
some horrible
enthused?
thing happened? So then we go in, and it's like a dinner party, and it's like an indie film.
Yes.
Brunch party. I keep saying there's so many dinner party indie films. We now have a brunch indie film. And it's the awkward stuff, like it's their third date, and do you want a mimosa, and like, hey, come over here with me, and like it's the like normal stuff. So part of me was kind of like, okay, I'm pretty sure if it was gonna be dicks and farts,
you would have already had one.
We'd be well past that point, because I expected like, oh, we're making, and then like the margarita mix sprays everywhere, and they're like, oh, and something crazy happens or whatever. I didn't even know the context of the disaster thing yet, right? So it's like this movie that's happening, and then I start to flip around where I'm now disappointed, where I'm like, maybe this won't be funny enough or like good enough, and I won't like this or something like that, because it sort of starts to fall off, where I'm like, oh, well, it's not ridiculous, but it's also not funny yet. It's like it's just talking and weird and like awkwardness, which is fine. Yeah,
I loved the dialogue in this movie.
Yeah.
I thought this is like so real dialogue, where like it's anytime you've gone to a party and there's like he addressed and nailed the different types of weirdos you run into and don't ever want to talk to and try to get away from this and that. It has an almost like Kevin Smithy vibe, where the dialogue feels too good to be conversation.
Oh yeah, too snappy.
But it also reminds you exactly of like where you're like, oh, that is me and my friends.
No, like you
it's
want
that great combo.
I should spoil it then. So then, like, after the shock wears off and I settle into the movie, I then began to slowly like it more and more until the end, when I was pretty high on it or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know if you showed an opinion or me, but I thought it was like the premise of this movie is that there's a disaster happening, and the people don't even like notice at first.
Yes.
And it's sort of this.
And how would you?
Yeah, and it's a weirdly realistic, like you're saying, like the best version of every stereotype of like a person, whatever. But like it's sort of a take on how even if something extreme happens, people would still act the same petty, shitty way that they would about everything else.
Yeah,
and it's very interesting and like good at that.
I love the constant, like, did I miss something? Like, walking in on things? Because that's, anytime you're at a party, you're always walking halfway into something and, like, well, they don't want to just like, say it again. Like,
and someone storms out, or, like, they're not talking, but they're staring at each other, and it's like, what? And it's this whole thing. Yeah, exactly.
There's one part she turns to David Cross, and she's like, fuck you, Alan, or whatever the fuck his name is. He's like, I didn't mean that. A lot of shit's happening right now.
Sorry.
I'll take it out on you.
Yeah.
And then another guy walks in without missing a beat, goes, "You gotta jiggle the handle," because you can hear the toilet running.
And he goes back. He's like, and he goes back and all that stuff. Yeah.
There's a lot of things like that. It's a very subtle movie that nothing is really abrasive or hit you over the head with this type of thing. Just like real calming things. Up until like 90% of the movie into it, I really liked the David Cross character.
Yep.
And then I was like, oh man, he's a
weirdo.
weirdo.
So should we just okay?
Yeah.
So there's not a whole lot really, I guess, to talk about here. You find out more about these people and how their lives intersect, and this extreme situation serves as a backdrop to like clear the air, and things come out about the different people and what's been happening. People break up, people get back together, people do whatever, right? It's this nice
It's a
sort
great
of
character
thing.
movie.
It's kind of what I always say I want. And I don't mean this to say that I didn't get what I want here, where it's like just make a comedy in quotes, but don't make it's like one of those like potato slicers that shoots the slice just like you're making it rain with just joke with no concern
it felt
for like
smooth
the
and
movie
natural.
and stuff. Yeah, and certain things would be super funny just out of nowhere, and it was more like earned because you kind of got into the thing with the thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
No, it was a really enjoyable experience. I actually walked away from this movie like, oh, now that was good. Like, I hadn't seen a movie like this in a while, where dialogue actually took a front seat and things were good.
Yeah.
I like having one set. I like having things like that because it lets them control things more and actually dive into these characters. Now, this was a relatively large cast for what kind of movie it is. It's 4 couples. So we have 8 main characters.
Yeah.
But it didn't feel like you didn't get a great amount of time with all of them. It did feel like that true all-star type of thing where there was not a shining beacon. There was no main character. Everyone took their positions. They all interact separately and together in all these different ways.
It does a really good job of like, hey, Bob, come with me and go down to it's almost like Clue or like certain other movies with ensembles where you like split up the people in different combinations for different purposes, so you can get dialogue and you get people to play off of each other, and then that person ends up with talking to her for a while, and then they go here, and you don't just follow David Cross, you don't just follow Julia Stiles.
Exactly.
It even cuts to places where neither of them are, and you get to see other things happening, all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, they may have been the introductory characters, but they certainly were not the main characters.
Right, and it's not like everyone else is crazy, but they're both whatever, straight or perfect, or like playing against them. Right, everyone has all these things about
like
them.
I like that Julia Stiles' character is obviously crazy, and she keeps finding things that were wrong with people that she calls them crazy, and her friends are like, everybody's crazy, blah, blah. And then like it happens to the character we know too, and you're like, all right, everybody's insane. There you go.
So this is where it started to kind of lose me with like the like you said, like the David Cross character.
Yes.
Takes this dramatic turn. I think at this point we should say, if you're watching this and you haven't watched this, I think, little known small movie, and this sounds interesting to you, maybe go check it out.
Yeah, just watch it.
Because everything from this point onward
is super spoiler.
Will be like the thing where you wouldn't know it going into it or something. 3, 2. David Cross is like a crazy religious guy or something like that. Who's
he considers himself a history teacher, but he teaches religion.
Bible. So like not that I'm too much of a stickler for logic per se, but it seems weird that it is their 3rd date, so maybe this wouldn't have come out yet, but he's so devoutly into it, and maybe that was triggered by the events, but still it's like I feel like this would have come up in random conversation where she would have said something. Right?
He struck me as a intelligent character though, and I think he knows because he didn't put in his dating profile. So I think he has the wherewithal to know that saying that you are very religious before you establish yourself could throw people off. And I think he was purposely keeping that information from her. But yes, the situation they're in, knowing that the rapture is coming or whatever, he has to.
That they will be judged.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the only way to really explain his point of I'm planning to poison everybody is to have the religious tone.
I would have liked it to spell out a little more that he's like, listen, I know this is crazy. I didn't say this earlier, but this is what it's just something, because it felt very. It started to feel a little too weird to me. It was not fatal, and the movie pretty quickly continues on its previous path.
I like that it continues on the path, not going with the religious ten, but saying, but he is right though. We are going to die a horrible death. Let us all drink this. And the constant like not finishing
that
the
was
sip.
super good.
I was like, yep, that's how it would happen. I know I wouldn't take a sip until I watch everyone drink the whole goddamn thing.
Let me write down. I wrote down where I actually. Okay, so like I don't think I laughed out loud for most of the movie, but when David
I may have chuckled a couple times.
I smiled and I was happy about it. Kind of like I usually say with Cheers, the show Cheers.
Sure.
I didn't laugh at that show, but I was like made me happy to watch it.
Yeah.
So
No, that's a good way of saying it, though. Like, this movie made me happy to watch it.
and like we're slowly building, we're learning about all these characters, whatever. And then when they do the sip and like they don't drink or like whatever, and someone says, "Well, what about you? Why didn't you, Glenn? Why didn't you drink?" He's like, "I suspected that would happen, and well, I was right." So and something about his delivery there, I actually finally for like this 80 minutes of like slow build up of all these characters, like the shock and of it not being some horrible parody shitty movie, and then coming back around to what it really was, and then slowly building up that like tension release of that laughter made me really laugh. And then it ends very quickly after that because they go to drink again and they don't do it again, and it's like, come on guys, and then it just cuts.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh man, that's wonderful.
I jumped through the credits because I wanted to see. I wanted there to be a little bumper scene where the main character, like the main couple that was hosting the party, are there with everyone else's heads down dead, and they're like, all right, so what do we do now? Because they did not want to die, but Julia Stiles is crazy, and they didn't want to live with her alone for the rest of life.
Oh, okay.
So they were like, you know what, we'll just drink. And I wanted them to be like, the way they both said we'll drink, I was like, okay, they're on the same page. They're gonna fake it.
Oh,
and then
okay,
but then it cuts, and then we don't actually get to see that.
Oh, neat. I didn't even like think of that. That's really cool. Yeah, I would like stuff like that. I thought something was going to happen with it, but cutting there actually makes sense because it's kind of like, they say the whole thing like, well, it doesn't matter if they eventually drink or not. The point is that even when it comes to like a mass suicide, they're still like, oh, come on, what are we doing?
Yeah.
It's still the same shitty stuff, which is interesting. It should make me sad, but it made me happy seeing these people, right? Mm-hmm. Like the smartest girls, like, I'm making drugs and stuff like that, and everyone's doing all their stuff, and they're like, hey, we're getting freaky if you want in, and like when they like try to get David Cross into like a threesome, and he's like, no, so rude, and then like leaves.
And then when you find out he's super religious, it made even more sense.
100%. Yeah. Stuff like that. Yeah, like people react in ways that later when you find out about something, right?
Yes. No, it all tied together very nicely. I enjoyed
the cheating on each other.
Yeah, I was gonna say
the
deductory thing of like, wait, when did you use my shower?
I know. And like
it was your idea.
And that girl being like the mom from Weed style, like hot, whatever, and like covering her face, like, oh no, and all that stuff as she was all out there and all that business. I like that stuff. No, it was good. And you had all the dialogue between the characters, like, how do you just live your life like this? Is this just fine for you? Come on, this is so important. What are you doing?
Yeah.
And all these things.
The friends that like are addressed earlier and you forget about and then are there late and like, well, maybe if you showed up on time, you wouldn't be dead.
Exactly. And it's like that was some cold shit, Julia Stiles. And she's like, was I a little harsh?
Cold as the quiche I would have been eating, you fucks.
It's so good. No, I love it. And then like we cut to this establishing shot of of the exterior of the house a few times.
Yeah.
And the second time,
it's a growing death outside.
Well, the second time, the couple that showed in late that they would not let in are all just like on the steps dead.
Yes.
And the third or fourth time, there's like birds, like somehow vultures eating their body or whatever.
The second time there are birds, and the third time the birds are dead.
Okay, there you go. I was gonna say
it was actually a
building
great
this external thing. Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah.
No, I really enjoyed this movie.
There's not a ton to say about this. Yeah, it's weird. This is not the kind of movie I think either of us usually enjoy.
No, and I probably wouldn't have come upon it if it wasn't at the dollar, because it was just there, and I was like, all right, this looks like a real movie. Let me pick it up. It has a 78% critics rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
On the same page.
And a 59% audience. So that's decent.
There you go.
I do think that's in the realm of what it deserves.
No, it was like especially so like recently, we've talked about movies that are like really well done, like physically and technically, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I may not have enjoyed them, or you may not have enjoyed them, or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's like, okay, like the more movies you watch, the more it's like, okay, having like special effects, or even like non-special effects, mundane effects, lighting, camera work, editing, all that stuff. I appreciate that stuff, but if you don't have something in there that I like, what am I doing there, right? It's like a song where like those progressive rock guys where it's like, oh, it's so hard to play, his fingers are moving so fast, and I'm like, okay, yeah, but what's going into my ears is like horrible.
Just
so like
noise?
I don't want this.
You can be technically a professional, but I don't care about your profession.
So this movie takes like one set, like static, like relatively static cast, dialogue-driven stuff. Nothing fancy or crazy. There's no weird. There's no monster Cloverfield monster at the end or something like that, and is like smartly paced and timed.
Very
super early. Like the lady on the phone walking her dog is like, "No, I'm not watching the news. No, can you just listen to me?" And we're like, whatever. And then like the cop car goes by later.
I loved. Scene. Can I use your phone? I'm actually on it right now.
Actively on the phone. Yeah. No, exactly. But like to make that funny and not feel like a thing, like I guess we have to establish, right? Like
a good cast of characters, like not the actual people, but the things they are playing.
The like archetypes.
This weird, yeah. And it honestly like that. The first 30 minutes, I'm just like, this is like every party I've ever been dragged to, where I'm like, oh god, there's this nut who's talking about ghost hunting, or oh, there's this.
Am I gonna get stuck talking to the ghost hunter?
Yeah.
Oh no.
There's this person who like tells me how smart they are, but like they don't do it for the money, and I'm like, okay, I don't even know if you are smart or not.
Yeah.
And this one, it panned out, she actually was smart, but like most people I meet at things are like, oh no, I am a PhD. Oh, but I volunteer. I'm like, how do you pay your rent? I live in my parents' basement. And I'm like, what?
But that's so wonderful because he's like, I'm a teacher. And she's like, oh, I'm a teacher too, but like a much better teacher than you. Right? And you're like, what the fuck? Like, this is awesome. And to have David Cross be there like, like his whole like thing was like a perfect, because him being the fish out of water, but like not overplaying it is so
he's
smart
really,
and
that's
good.
why I was so happy with his character.
Yeah.
And I genuinely liked and agreed with most of the things he was doing until he became this nut. And I think I audibly went like, oh no,
I know,
because I liked the character
exactly.
And I think a sequel to this would be fine. I think it picks up right from the, like, well, I guess we're not going to be drinking, and then like it's the next whatevers, and them trying to survive,
or like or just the nerd who wanted to leave and had everything planned out drank and no one else drank.
That's fine.
Just he's dead. Oh, that made me so happy. No, so like I was afraid, just to fill this out more, I was afraid that when he made that turn, when the Glenn character becomes the religious nut, that then we'd see the over-the-top, pushing too hard David Cross performance that would then ruin the movie.
But no, he was great all the way through.
But he remained consistent, which was so good. And yeah, it like made me respect him more.
Yeah,
as an actor
never had an issue with him. It was just the writing of where that character went. But ultimately,
it made me scared though.
I didn't have a problem. I think because it ended up being like fine. But it was that moment of oh no, what are you doing?
Exactly.
What? Why, Todd Berger? Why?
No, and like it made me, and like part of what saved it too was the Julia I forget her character's name's reaction.
Yes.
When she goes up and is like hitting the chair on the table, he's crazy and all that stuff, and then even like after all the dialogue,
she waits for Buck to take a sip before she even says it's poison.
He poisoned the wine, by the way. Oh, not cool, but not cool. Or no, but then like everything loops around several times. Everyone gets to like talk, and then she goes, "We admit he's crazy, though, right?" And then like,
oh yes,
yeah, like Ugly Betty's like, oh, 100%, but like we should drink this. No, it's good. This movie is good.
What did you drop on this for a rating?
Oh God, I don't know. So this is really hard, right? Because if I give it like a 7 out of 10, we're gonna look back and say like, well, you gave this $400 billion movie with like all these people.
But the budget doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
The budget doesn't matter.
Well, a $400 billion movie that like looks like a $400 billion movie.
But again,
right? Yeah.
You're judging it on what it was. Like if you give this movie $400 million, it wouldn't have changed anything because it still would have been in one. Like maybe the furniture got better, but like furniture is subjective, and I thought everything went well.
Like I really had no problems with this. It didn't like push me or move me the way that like my 9s or 8s out of 10s did. So I think I would fall. Like you start at a 5. I don't have any problems. I enjoyed watching it, and I thought it did good things with what it had. So I'd probably end up in like the 7 range.
Yeah, I was like 6-8 on this.
You keep doing fractional scores
because like there are so many numbers.
I know, but like
and like odds are like for the audience at home, I may never give an 8, 9, and 10.
Yeah,
like it may never happen.
Yeah,
because like you have to be up. Like, a 10 is a perfect film. There was no improvements to be made, and a 9, you're near perfect.
No, like all of my 10s, I can't even think of anything that I would give a 10. Like 10s are like zeros to me. Like I don't wouldn't really give them out. But the 8s and 9s are stuff that like I've seen recently where I've been like, wow, or something like a Whiplash or whatever.
This was a great
movie that hits
like,
me.
I could not give it a more enthusiastic 2 thumbs up and say you should watch this movie.
Yeah.
And like take that for what it is. The characters are great. I enjoyed the people. And like, I would be interested to see more from this Todd Berger if he was to write some more stuff like this.
So that's part of what makes me, I won't say sad or something, but like it's this was 2012.
I don't know. I didn't actually look it up
have done,
to see if he had done anything else, or he had done nothing. I honestly can't recall. This was I didn't write anything down if it happened. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But if I saw something from the and like this is the kind of thing you can recommend to someone without having to apologize about, like, okay, now going into it, it's a little weird. It's kind of comedy,
no, there would be nothing,
but whatever. Right?
Nothing needed.
This is like an actual movie, but is also good.
Yeah. All right, guys. So that's our thoughts on this. Let us know in the comments below what you think about it. Don't die in a fire, and we'll see you next time.
Hello, internets. I just love watching JustDaggers. If you've enjoyed this video as much as I have, click that subscribe button. Peace out, homies.